Even after we've grown and gone through what feels like multiple apocalypses, it's not a great look in the long term. It's adolescent, and at this point, it's downright childish. So what comes next? In 2007, Alexandra Dimitrescu describes metamodernism as an emergence from and reaction to postmodernism, championing the idea that only in their interconnection and continuous revision lie the possibility of grasping the nature of contemporary cultural and literary phenomena. In their 2010 essay, Notes on Metamodernism, cultural theorists Timotheus Vermeulen and Robin Vandenacker further expound upon the metamodern sensibility as a kind of informed naivete, a pragmatic idealism, where grand narratives are as necessary as they are problematic. Hope is not simply something to distrust, love not necessarily something to be ridiculed. They assert that relativism, irony, and pastiche have been replaced by engagement, affect, and storytelling through ironic sincerity. They describe metamodernism as a structure of feeling that oscillates between modernist thought and postmodernist thought, embracing doubt as well as hope and melancholy, sincerity and irony, affect and apathy, the personal and the political. Metamodernism is not so much a philosophy as it is an attempt at an open source document that might contextualize and explain what's going on around us, in political economy as much as in the arts. Modernism to postmodernism to metamodernism is a widening of perspective, not a linear progression of thought. It's a dialectic model. Remember, 1 plus negative 1 equals 2. Truth is syncretized from two contradictory realities being reconciled. Schrodinger's cat can simultaneously be alive and dead. Art can simultaneously be ironic and sincere.
One, we recognize oscillation to be the natural order of the world. 2. We must liberate ourselves from the inertia resulting from a century of modernist ideological naivete and the cynical insincerity of its antonymous bastard child. 3. Movement shall henceforth be enabled by way of an oscillation between positions, with diametrically opposed ideas operating like the pulsating polarities of a colossal electric machine, propelling the world into action. 4. We acknowledge the limitations inherent to all movement and experience, and the futility of any attempt to transcend the boundaries set forth therein. The essential incompleteness of a system should necessitate an adherence, not in order to achieve a given end or be slaves to its course, but rather perchance to glimpse by proxy some hidden exteriority. Existence is enriched if we set about our task as if those limits might be exceeded, for such action unfolds the world. 5. All things are caught within the irrevocable slide toward a state of maximum entropic dissemblance. Artistic creation is contingent upon the origination or revelation of difference therein. Affect at its zenith is the unmediated experience of difference in itself. It must be art's role to explore the promise of its own paradoxical ambition by coaxing excess towards presence. 6. The present is a symptom of the twin birth of immediacy and obsolescence. Today, we are nostalgists as much as we are futurists. The new technology enables the simultaneous experience and enactment of events from a multiplicity of positions. Far from signaling its demise, these emergent networks facilitate the democratization of history, illuminating the forking paths along which its grand narratives may navigate the here and now. 7. Just as science strives for poetic elegance, artists might assume a quest for truth. All information is grounds for knowledge, whether empirical or aphoristic, no matter its truth value. We should embrace the scientific poetic synthesis and informed naivete of a magical realism. Error breeds sense. 8. We propose a pragmatic romanticism unhindered by ideological anchorage. Thus, metamodernism shall be defined as the mercurial condition between and beyond irony and sincerity, naivete and knowingness, relativism and truth, optimism and doubt. In pursuit of a plurality of disparate and elusive horizons, we must go forth and oscillate.
The Metamodernist Manifesto was published in 2011, while Vermeulen and Vandenacker's Notes on Metamodernism was published a year before in 2010. And at the very same time metamodernism was being popularized in the discourse, comedy, the lowest, most vulgar and common of the arts, procured her first thoroughly metamodernist comic from a place no one expected. Not a seasoned comedian, not even a full-grown adult, but a white Catholic schoolboy from Massachusetts who's really good with words and really isn't gay, no matter what his family thinks. To say that culture wasn't really ready for Bo Burnham's metamodern brand of comedy, an unusual blend of bald sarcasm and heartfelt sincerity, is An understatement. Even his older millennial peers didn't really seem to get it when he talked about the self-consciousness of perpetual performance as demanded by our late capitalist social media entertainment culture. Of course, these were the same people who were surprised by the unexpected subject matter of his debut film, 8th Grade.
I wanted to write about my anxiety, so I sat down and tried to buckshot a bunch of scenes with a bunch of different characters, not knowing what it was going to be. And I stumbled on the voice of this kid and her dad. I wrote a scene of them driving to the mall and her not wanting him to look weird when they were driving, and him not knowing what she meant by that. And it was just immediately very alive to me. It felt more real than anything else I was writing.
In 2018, the people who really understood Bo Burnham weren't the ones running media discourse, because they were all still in high school.
She's a proxy for how I feel now, how I navigate my own anxiety, how it feels like to navigate the world now. And it just happened to be, for some reason, a 13-year-old 8th grade girl that felt like the perfect conduit for what I felt like it feels like to be alive right now.
I mentioned before that the bulk of Bo Burnham's earlier fan base was young girls, historically the most reliable and catered to consumers.
But that is the danger of social media to me. There is you, and then there is the other you. There is the idea of you. There is the story of you. The danger is not that we're going to treat the internet like it's real. The danger is that we're treating the real world like it's the internet, and you're walking through an experience as a kid, and you're also hovering over yourself, watching your experience from afar, because that's how people will consume it. You watch people watch your experience. You watch other people in the room watch you watch them. You're nostalgic for the experience as you're in it because you're thinking of how it'll be processed after the fact. It's disassociative and strange and weird, and that leads to anxiety and weird feelings.
This feeling he's describing, that part of our mind that floats above us, removed and hyper-aware of everything we do and say, our third eye, our superego, simply our sense of persistent self-awareness, whatever you want to call it. This is what the metamodern human mind looks like. This is your brain on metamodernism. This is the difference between the chucklefucks who unironically bump Bezos 1 as a pro-Amazon song, and those to whom it is almost painfully obvious that these interludes are simultaneously barely concealed venomous criticism and hilarious parody that speaks to its own absurdity. Jeffrey Bezos, you did it! This isn't a joke.